even like what Whoopi called me out on.
Okay, so what was that?
I said...
Okay, Rachel Bilson doesn't recount this very well, so we're just going to stick to the actual clips here. So, Rachel was on Bill Maher's Club Random podcast yesterday and discussed what it was like to become a hot topic on The View in October.
Whoopi's fascinated by this one.
Whoopi and the gals reacted to Rachel saying on her own podcast that a man's number of sexual partners would influence her attraction to him.
Is it unattractive
well, if it's
or
really
attractive?
low at this day and age, you'd be like, that's a little weird. Like if a dude is like, I don't know, this is gonna sound so like judgmental, but if a dude's like in his 40s and he's like, I've slept with like 4 women. I maybe said 4. I meant more like 2. But it all depends. Like maybe
it depends on their history.
Maybe he's been in like decade relationships. Totally respectable. I don't know. It's not fair for me to say either way.
Yeah.
I don't know. A person's a person.
So 3 days after the Broad Ideas podcast episode went up, the hot topic was on the table.
I think it's very odd that you're concerned that he's had sexual partners, any sexual partner. Why is it your business?
So this was already off the rails because Whoopi is thinking that the conversation on Rachel's podcast was, do you want to know how many sexual partners your partner had or potential partner had? When it really was, you know the number, is that going to affect your level of attraction to that person?
Men traditionally were taught to have many sexual partners.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That was how it was.
Right. When she called out the one line, I was like, hold on.
Just let her go, Rachel.
Men could go and do whatever they wanted to do, and women were not supposed to. Now, that has been shifting, and young women have been bitching about, why are you telling me what I should be? So now this happening, and now you mad.
Almost felt like shaming in a weird way, because that's like a big thing now,
Right.
like shaming, whatever.
So Whoopi is thinking that Rachel's angry at the hypothetical man for not having more sexual partners. Now Rachel is saying that Whoopi is shaming her for shaming the hypothetical man for not having more than 4 sexual partners when she really meant 2 sexual partners. Oh my God, what is this?
I don't understand.
You don't understand. Imagine me sitting here trying to sort through this nonsense.
If he's happy with you and you're having a good time, why are you bitching?
The only one bitching here is me, Whoopi, for even deciding to cover this topic in the first place.
And it's like, all right, well, if you're talking about my podcast and I said something, let me respond.
Yeah, on the same day, October 5th, as that View conversation, Rachel reached out to EW to complain that Whoopi clearly didn't watch the full conversation. If you go on to listen to the conversation as a whole and hear what I have to say, it actually isn't what was first presented. I think it's important to hear the whole conversation before casting your judgment or criticism on something. I absolutely agree. That's why doing this, that I make sure I track down the actual video or the audio of the person saying it themselves, not reading it from any other source, and then kind of seeing that quote in the full context or within the conversation, the bigger conversation. So in order to do that with Rachel's, I had to pull up her 143-minute long episode of her podcast. Yes, it's 2 hours and 23 minutes long. Obviously, I was able to skim through it a little bit, but this discussion doesn't happen till the 2 hour and 12-minute mark. Who is watching these podcasts? I don't know. Sometimes I wish I didn't have to be so thorough. It can be as flippant as both Whoopi and Rachel are through the situation. Bravo to the EW writer, who mentions in the article, with Rachel's response to Whoopi, that Rachel hadn't watched the full episode of The View either. The hypocrite said what? Now, I don't know if that means that Rachel didn't watch the full hour-long episode of The View, which would be unnecessary, of course, or she just didn't watch the entire segment when she was a hot topic, which was 4.5 minutes long. Either way, pretty funny. Now, the fact is with Whoopi that she was uninformed or ill-prepared to discuss that on national television. There's failure of communication somewhere, either in the hot topic meeting or her producer, kind of prepping her on that topic beforehand. That kind of stuff should not be happening on a show like The View. You need to know what you're talking about when you discuss it. And you're going to cast judgment, like Rachel said. So yeah, Rachel was completely fine in that conversation that she had on her podcast.
If you listen to the whole conversation, I immediately say, wait, I'm not judgment. I am all about whatever works for people.
And by the way, she wasn't really that bothered by Whoopi's comments to begin with.
Because it's just gonna bring more people to maybe hear the conversation in the first place.
Free promo.
You should be sending them a fruit basket.
I should be sending Whoopi a Christmas present is what I
Right.
should be doing,
How about sending me one? I'll take it. Now, the last thing that I'll bitch about is something that Rachel said in both the EW interview and on Club Random podcast. That episode was 93 minutes long, by the way.
It was just like us just shooting the
We were just talking. It was a flippant comment that I was just talking with friends. Well, Rachel, a podcast is just talking. It's always just talking. And it's recorded and then broadcast to an audience. So just like you said, you wanted to reach a bigger audience for this podcast. So when you don't want people to hear you talking, don't do it in front of a camera and don't do it in front of a microphone, okay? If you think you're not going to be held accountable for the words that come out of your mouth when you're just talking on your podcast that's being recorded and broadcast to an audience, you're in the wrong business, okay? I would suggest just going back to scripts for movies and TV shows. Okay, bye.